Welcome to Business in the Black, the podcast where ideas become plans, plans become actionable items, and actionable items become results. We're the go-to resource for Black entrepreneurs ready to build, grow, and dominate their industries. Each episode delivers real stories from real founders, their wins, their struggles, and the game-changing lessons that fuel success. From funding strategies to scaling secrets, we're serving up the knowledge, connections, and inspiration you need to transform your vision into victory. This is where Black excellence meets business mastery. Let's get to work. Networking is not just about connecting people. It's about connecting people, people with ideas, and people with opportunities. Michelle Janae. Today, we have J. Ken Harris with us, right out of Atlanta, Georgia, from Trait Consultants.
So Trait Consultants primarily is a mental health, I don't really want to say the word agency, but a mental health service that I provide. But under the umbrella of mental health falls several different subsidies, right? So one thing that I do under mental health is consulting work. The greatest support was my mother, who I still lived with. My parents were together. They were together for 36 years by the time my dad passed. Yeah. To say that I was numb would be an understatement. It was, for probably the greater part of 5 or 6 weeks, it felt like I was just on autopilot. And essentially, you're tore up. I understand why you're tore up. And it's amazing that you're still here, but you're tore up.
Right.
Okay, so now that we're stating facts, sometimes you audition therapists, like you have to see if it's a good fit. It was just a recognition of what I had done, what I had accomplished. You have this license, you have this certification, you have this experience. And it is not to say that there aren't people smarter than me or people who have more letters behind their name than I do. But what is for you is for you. And I had to rest in that. For me, it's a matter of preparedness once I do make that step versus just blindly making that step and hoping for the best.
Let's move to January 2025,
okay,
when your frat brother, who is not a member of Omega Psi Phi Fraternity Incorporated, you feel free to share that stuff if you want to. You know, how, he gets this promotion or what have you,
sure.
And you say, don't forget about the little people. You know, that's a line right there in the community. If y'all don't know about it, you find somebody. But anyways, don't forget about the little people. How did it feel? Walk us through that moment that you got a call from the Attorney General of the state of Massachusetts.
So when I said don't forget about the little people, it was very tongue-in-cheek. But one thing about this frat brother, if he says he's going to do something, he's going to do something. And he said, I'm not going to forget about you. I'm going to circle back. And so that was August or September of 2024. And so I think it was after Thanksgiving going into the holidays, he goes, would you be willing to hop on a project with me for the Attorney General? And I was like, Attorney General of what? Yeah. He was like, Massachusetts. I was like the Attorney General? And he was like, yeah. I said, well, I'm down. And he was like, I need a mental health component. And I said, that's in my space, that's in my wheelhouse. And he was like, okay, I'll be back. We didn't speak for like 4 or 5 weeks. So he was like, I need you to hop on a call. I can't even remember what day it was in January. And so I'm thinking I'm just hopping on a call. Like, I'm not even going to get on the camera. I look like trash outside the bag. I don't even have on like appropriate attire. I think I just come in from the gym. And I hop on the call and I readily recognize the Attorney General's office on this call and the 4 or 5 other people he has recruited to be on this project. So because I was born at night, not last night, I keep some clothes around this house so I can throw something on to get on camera. So I threw on like a jacket or something, zipped it up, and hopped on camera. And they have already dived into what the project entails, what we're going to look at. And then I hear, and Dr. Harris is going to be here for the mental health component. Dr. Harris, you want to come on camera and say something? I was like, hey, I'm Dr. Harris. There's a mental health component to what we'll be doing, and I am glad to be a part of this team, and I'm glad to oversee it. And that was all I had to say. Welcome aboard. So glad. We gave them a proposal. They ultimately approved it. And what went from a seed that was planted in the end of 2024 was very quickly watered and sprouted in January 2025 to the point where we see the blade come out the ground and it begins to blossom, because I was on my first plane to Boston in February to help to start with the data collection for this particular project. So that was to see something come to fruition, to see something that wasn't even on your radar. Like when somebody said that wasn't on your bingo card, it wasn't on my bingo card. Yeah. And it was amazing to see, and it was amazing to see that it happened so quickly. And so for that, I am forever grateful and recognize what the possibilities truly are and my full potential.
Great. When you hopped on that call and, you know, got yourself together and found you some clothes and all the things, and you recognized who was in the room, I mean, you know, that must have been a huge validation point for you and your decision to step out on faith for your business and all the things, you know, kind of, you know, how did that experience feel like in that moment, just taking it all in?
In that moment, I honestly wondered if I had been off more than I could chew, because I still had a full-time job, but I consult on the side. Consulting is icing on the cake for me. So I wondered if I had been off more than I could chew, and then voices that I had to do away with very quickly. It was like, can you do what you said you were going to do? Will you be able to get all of this done? Can you get it done when they expect you to get it done? So there was the initial excitement, but then there was the immediate trepidation almost of like, can I even do it? And then it was like, well, no, you can do it, because one, you know, this frat brother, he is not going to put you on if he has any hesitancy to put you on. And you can do this. You can conduct interviews, you can do research, like you can do that. So you know it's in your wheelhouse, you know you're well able, you know you're capable. So there was the excitement, then the can I, and then it was like, you can. So it was a myriad of emotions, and that cycle repeated itself a couple of times. Even like being there on site, we were in and out of Boston all the way through May. And it was like to the point where sometimes I was taking off on the flight from Atlanta and it was telling me to check in for my return flight in 24 hours. So it was a lot of in, a lot of out. And so in those moments, it was like, do I even know what I'm doing? I was like, yeah, you know what you're doing. Like, stop playing. So it was exciting, but the excitement is what carried me all the way through it. And it was like, do you recognize who you're working for? Do you recognize what you're doing? But more importantly, the work that we were doing was giving voice to an underserved community. We were looking at I'm not even entirely sure that I can speak to it fully, but we were giving voice to a community that was underserved in one sense, but overserved in another. So we were looking at policing practices in a particular community, and it affects brown and black people. And so to be able to take their voices and give, not credence, because their stories were incredible and unbelievable in and of themselves, but to give amplification to their voices, to let it be heard from a professional aspect, to take what they said in everyday language and zhuzh it up a little bit and give it polysyllabic words and put it in the hands of the Attorney General to actually give breadth to what was going on. It was a humbling experience, but it was also exciting because these people might not otherwise be heard or taken seriously. But when you give a report to somebody and it's like, this is what we found when we interviewed these almost 100 people. These are the notes that we took on what we asked. These are the recordings of the interviews we did. These are the groups that came together. These are the young men, and in many cases, the young women who have had situations where they've had to deal with law enforcement and can speak to it. And just be able to, like I said, amplify their voices was a big task, one that we were up for, and I think one that we accomplished well.
A lot of our guests stress the power of networking. And thinking of, you know, your frat brother and then him putting you on to the Attorney General, and that has since, you know, opened new opportunities, again, from that initial contact. How has that momentum shifted your confidence and your vision for what's possible in the future?
It made me confident in who I am professionally, for sure. And confidence reads. When it walks into a room, people can say, oh, that's a confident individual. He knows what he's talking about. And when you are confident and you believe in yourself, people believe everything you say.
You do that,
good, bad, or indifferent.
Do that. Okay.
So the fact that it's like, okay, I got my weight up a little bit. I've known what I'm talking about, but the fact that it has that much more validation is a good feeling. And like you talked about networking. So networking in general is kind of not my thing. I'll be honest. I'm not shy. It's just it can be so exhausting sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's just one of those things. So a lateral network is phenomenal. And I think that when you network laterally, that space right there, you still run into people who know people up here. So that has turned into speaking engagements. So all of my friends are professional in some capacity, right? And we can joke, we can play, but when it comes down to business, we can handle up on business as well. So I have a group of friends that I travel to Martha's Vineyard with annually, and it is quite literally about getting away from work and just enjoying each other and enjoying the space and amazingness that is Martha's Vineyard. Worthy of an entire podcast by itself. I'm going to stay on task.
It sounds like he want to come back already. We do have repeat visitors, so you never know.
But one of my friends there knew somebody here in Atlanta and was like, hey, I think I want to connect the two of you all. And so he connected us, and she's like, I have a conference coming up, and I feel like you could be a good panelist for this segment. And it was talking about burnout, and that's a mental health thing. Yes, I can be. So long story short, I'm a panelist for the, make sure I get it correct, Black Women in Clinical Research conference that's taking place here in Atlanta at the end of October. So the networking is key. It is necessary. It's an integral part of being a professional, even though it can be taxing sometimes and not necessarily go the way that you want, because you don't always see the results immediately. But sometimes it's about making this connection and then making that connection, and then somebody saying, you know what, the two of y'all need to work together.
Right.
I may or may not be there, but the two of y'all need to work together. And so it is about, as much as you can, I hate to say cliches and I hate to say stuff like this, putting somebody on.
Right.
And being comfortable and secure in who you are as a professional, to recognize that putting somebody else on does not mean taking yourself out.
Right. Actually helping you out.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
You make a lot of powerful statements.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, go ahead and gas him up, right?
Okay.
But in any case, one of your powerful statements that I think is, or one of the statements that you make that is a powerful statement, let me get my modifiers together, is, if the venture is not paying for itself, it's a bill. So what pushed you to adopt that type of mindset, and how does it inform your decision making about what opportunities to pursue?
So what pushed me that way was when I initially launched Trek Consultants, and people think that they need a storefront or they need a brick and mortar situation, and I knew that I was not in a financial position to do that in that moment. And so it was like, well, if you go remote and you use Zoom, or you use some other FaceTime, I think at that point in time we were still using Skype, may it rest in peace. You don't have any overhead.
Right.
And so I was like, I think that's the way to go.
Right.
Because I've seen so many businesses start and you are literally making enough money to cover the rent here, where you aren't reaping the full benefits of it, right? Like, you ultimately want to thrive and you want to flourish as an entrepreneur. So if you're bringing in $5,000 a month and your rent is $4,300, and you got to pay for supplies, you got to pay for this, ultimately you have now created a bill for yourself, because you are not living in the black.
Right. Okay.
You are 100%.
See what you did there.
Exactly. Right.
Yeah.
You are in the red. And so if you continually stay in the red month after month, or you break even, what are we doing here?
Right.
And so any venture that is not paying for itself, for me, is a bill. I don't like bills. I don't want you to pay them.
Okay.
And it needs to take care of itself at a bare minimum. And I mean, and when I say take care of itself, that is why I have a full-time job, and that is why I do consulting on the side. So my bills are always going to be taken care of around here. Doing consulting work allows me to add to my savings, allows me to do this, allows me to do that.
Go to Martha's Vineyard. Okay.
Sure. Anyhow, but if I was having to do consulting work to make my ends meet,
yeah,
that's a problem for me. And so I think don't get me wrong, as you start as an entrepreneur, there are going to be growing pains. You will likely not see a profit for probably about 2 years.
Yeah.
And that's the honest to goodness truth. So I'm not saying stick it out for 90 days and then throw in the towel, but do what works for you and do what's right for you. But I know for me, if a business is not paying for itself, it is a bill and I need to be rid of it.
Yeah. Benchmarks are important.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody knows you got to have some type of goal. You got to have some type of, this is what makes me successful. But you don't use traditional benchmarks. You SMART goals and whatever other, type of goal you want to use. But walk us through how you define success.
So I think everybody's definition of success should be operationalized for themselves, right? So for me, do I want to make as much money as I can? Sure. Is it also about providing a good quality service? Yes. But for me, in addition to the good quality service, I like to provide a timely service. So I told you one of my niches right now is completing the FMLA paperwork. The turnaround for that for some primary care physicians is a long time, and they upcharge at the wazoo if you want a quick turnaround.
Mm-hmm.
My primary care physician, I was reading through his fees and whatnot, and he has one flat rate for FMLA, but if he's like, if you want it within like 24 or 48 hours, it's $500. And so I said, okay, I get the need to turn around things quickly, but what you was gonna say on Tuesday, you could say on Thursday. Like, right. Stop playing in my face. So to that end, for me, one of my metrics is quick turnaround. So if you are seeking me for those services, let's sit down and have a session today. And I still do telehealth. So if they can't get on camera, it is a phone call, which is legal and totally fine in the state of Georgia. Trust me. And so we'll have an initial conversation, and then I will then have a follow-up conversation within a week and have them forward me the necessary paperwork, because some of the agencies are different. I will review the paperwork, discuss with them what I think needs to go on the paperwork, complete it, have them review it, we sign off on it, and we keep it moving. So for me, metrics, my metric is completion, and from initial contact to completion of paperwork. Like I said, bringing in money is fine and it's cool. If I brought in $25,000 a month, that is phenomenal. But what is my quality of life while I do it?
Right.
Am I giving a quality service? So I think that my approach to it feels and it looks different, and it gives me the opportunity to focus on the individual. So many times we seek services that are not focused on the individual. It is this big turnstile. Let's get them in, get them out, get them in, get them out. I want you to feel like I care.
Right.
I want you to feel like I'm legitimately listening to you and your concerns and why your performance is suffering at work, which in turn is making you not perform well at home. I want to get into the nitty and gritty of that. And so I want to be able to have laser focus for the greater part of a week and do what I need to do and get you where you need to be so that you can flourish and thrive.
Our audience is full of entrepreneurs,
mm-hmm.
full of new entrepreneurs, long-term entrepreneurs, people who are trying to figure it out and all the things.
Sure.
And so, marketing can be a thing.
Yes.
It can be a hassle, an issue, if you will. And you said a few minutes ago that, you didn't market as well as you could have or should have, and you saw it when the market got saturated in 2020. Right. And so back then, you got a little discouraged, and a friend offered you some pointers. What specific advice did the friend give you, and how did it shift your perspective?
So it is my best friend, and he started a business in the pandemic and is flourishing and thriving to this day.
Sound like a guest, but go on.
Right. And so when I was talking to him, I was like, well, this ain't happening, that ain't happening. And he's like, well, are you doing what you can do?
Mm.
And I was like, what do you mean? He's like, think about what you can do. Like, are you doing that? And so I sat there and thought about it for a minute. I was like, what can I do? Like, there's only so much in the pandemic. There was only so much that you could do, right? But I was like, no, there are some things that I can do. So I actually started to make videos. And I would try to keep them at a minute or under, and just talk very, very quickly about something. I At one point in time I mentioned the phenomenon of ghosting and what it means, and like, this is what it means, this is how we feel, but this is how we should actually interpret it. And so I would current phenomenon I would speak to in about a minute, and the videos would circulate and people would watch. And I've actually had job interviews where somebody said, I saw your video on X, Y, and Z.
Oh, wow.
Please keep up the good work. And so those are the moments where you're like, oh, okay, well, somebody is listening, or somebody does care, or somebody does remember, right? And so a lot of times it is about doing what you can do.
Right.
Marketing can be expensive.
Yeah.
And sometimes we just don't have the money to pour into it. There are people who have not poured a lot into marketing, but done what they can do and have reaped the benefits. And there are people who've paid tons for marketing and their business still didn't jump off the ground.
Right.
So I think that it's incumbent upon us to do what we can do. And as you start to grow, you will see other avenues and other venues in which you can market, and in which and placement and stuff like that, and collaboration, things of that nature.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very helpful information.
Thank you.
Yeah. We are Business in the Black, and our primary audience are Black entrepreneurs. Now, anybody can watch, anybody can get information from the podcast, but our guests are Black entrepreneurs. But for you, that hasn't been a real focal point in your marketing strategy. Again, another one of your sayings is, in other news, water is wet.
Yeah.
I mean, you're Black, they can see it. But in any case, but it has made you hyper aware of performing quality services, or providing quality services.
Sure.
Unpack that tension between acknowledging your identity while not making it a part of your whole brand.
Right. So race is one of those things that is evident.
Right.
Regardless of how you feel about it, and not you, but anybody in general feels about it, people assign a race to you when they see you. So I am Black. Let me be very clear. I love everything about being Black. I have never claimed to be anything but Black. And for me, I only want to say that I'm a Black man, right? I don't have to differentiate or hash out my heritage. I'm a Black man, period.
Covers it all.
We're done here, right?
Yeah.
So when you get into things like mental health, I could do therapy with anybody. My journey into mental health came about because of my experience when I was 16, and I wanted to create a safe place for Black and brown boys where they could be emotionally vulnerable, and where they could express themselves, and they could have somebody who looked like them. So yes, I'm a Black man. Am I going to say that my business is Black? My business is my business, and it is owned by a Black man. So I don't want anybody to think for a second that I'm shying away from being Black or anything like that. But it is about, for me, it is one of the many things that I am.
Right.
I'm an educational psychologist. I am a licensed therapist. I am a Georgia native. I have long hair. I have brown eyes. I'm a Black man. So I can hang my hat on any of those things. And I am a good therapist who happens to be Black. So I don't necessarily want to lead with something that is a default.
Right.
I want to lead with, especially in the professional world, I prefer to lead with what I have done and what I've accomplished. And then on top of that, I'm Black. So marinate on that.
If you can't see it.
Right. If you can't see it, and were there any questions?
Yeah.
So, yes, my business is a Black business. Do I market it as such? Not necessarily, because because I don't know that there's a need to.
Right, right.
You can look at me and see that I'm a black man. And if you are getting services from me, you are getting services from a black man. Be you a black man. Be you a white man. Be you a Hispanic woman. Be you the Attorney General of Massachusetts.
I feel it. Yeah, absolutely. Everybody's a content creator. Everybody's a podcaster. Everybody has an opinion. Everybody is telling you how to think, how to do this, how to do that. And the mental health consulting industry is no stranger to this, because you're being flooded with these content creators and different people, underqualified people. While mental health has gone from taboo, as again, way back, early 80s, and to trendy. Everybody again has an opinion. How do you position yourself as somebody with real expertise? You are you're the standard. You are somebody who knows what they're talking about, who's gone through the studies, and stay grounded in excellence during this everybody has an opinion cultural shift.
Right. To your point, everybody does have an opinion, and it is valuable. It is yours, and it's great, and it can be, we can discuss it. But what I'm never going to do is argue with somebody's opinion, right? What I do like to do is back things up with facts.
Yeah.
So whereas you may feel this way, this journal article actually says, whereas you think this way, my education and training says this. So I think that is one of the things that helps differentiate, and not just me, any professional, right?
Right.
And I think that one thing that we have to remember as professionals is that we are professionals, and we should charge such.
Right.
As professionals, we should charge you as such. So you asking whomever, Lisa, Billy Ann, Pookie, whomever you asking for advice about X, Y, and Z, that is their opinion. If you come to me and ask me my opinion about something that is mental health related, something that is educationally related, it's a different opinion, because it's an informed opinion. And I think that is the difference. It's an informed, educated opinion versus kitchen table talk versus texting and talking with a friend. There's a difference. And not to say that we can't get valuable input from our friends. I'm not saying that. But when you go to somebody who is a subject matter expert, when you go to somebody who has a license, a degree, has training, the opinion is not just their opinion. It is an informed opinion. And that is the difference. A lot of these opinions folks have aren't informed.
Right.
And that's the problem.
Yeah.
And people will rather cling to an uninformed opinion that is popular, that's tickling their ears, than an informed opinion that's making them sit down and shut up and think.
Ting. Your future goals are to build out a staff and climb more in the political arena and governmental programs. What specific changes do you want to create in how mental health is addressed at the systems level?
So what I want for mental health as a whole is not just to be a buzzword, because it's hot and trendy right now.
Yeah.
I don't want the trend to ever die. I want it to be something that is implemented on all levels, in all aspects of all jobs, in every corner of this country and the world. I know that's a lofty goal, right?
Yeah.
But in every area of this country. So I want us to. There was a heavy opioid epidemic at one point in time, right? You don't hear so much about it anymore.
Right.
There was this amazing war on drugs. You don't really hear about it anymore. I want mental health to always be at the forefront of people's minds and on the tips of their tongues. So for me, that means that FMLA paperwork never dies down. That means that we will continue to fund and boost and talk about and continue to have in the forefront mental health conversations about burnout, about how to support staff, about how to support employees, about how to support, because there's a different level of stress the higher up you go in organizations, how to support CEOs, how to support COOs, CHROs, mid-level managers, because they're caught in the middle, right? So I think that it needs to be expanded, and for me, the conversation just needs to continue, not for 2025 or 2026, I want to have this conversation in 2036, in 2046. I want it to forever be I want it to always be on the dinner table. Yeah. That's what I want.
Awesome. Another statistic about Black entrepreneurs is that, typically, the person who owns the business, runs the business, markets the business, does all the things. And again, you're talking about building out a staff. Well, what does success look like when trade consultants hires other people and, you're not doing all the work and you have people to help you? How are you building something that can thrive beyond, again, just you?
Yeah. So I don't want a big staff. I would like it to remain a bit of a boutique consulting situation, right? So you don't take on everything that's brought your way. You are a little persnickety about what you choose and which direction you head. So to that end, I don't want a staff of 15 or 20 people. 3 or 4 or 5, like, I feel like it's a very sweet spot.
Yeah.
And there is a division of labor. Whose expertise is this? Like, who feels strongly about this? Is there anybody who does not want to do this?
Yeah.
So I don't want a big staff because more money, more problems. Like, seriously, like, the bigger you get, the more issues and concerns that you have. So I don't want to get to the point where I can't put hands on things. Also to the point where if, let's say you work for trade consultants and you're doing some consulting, you're doing, for whomever. If you decide, I don't want to do this anymore, or I need to take a sabbatical, I need to just walk away from it, I want to be familiar enough with it till I can step in and do it too. And I think that the bigger an organization gets, the further you get away from that. So I would like to think that, would I need to oversee and have a hand in everything? No. Do I want to know generally what's going on and be abreast of what's going on? Absolutely. Because it's going to fall under my umbrella, and 9 times out of 10, if they're going to sue you, they're going to sue the whole organization.
Facts.
Which hopefully that, something like that would never happen. But it's ultimately your brand, your name, your image, your ness, your likeness, your everything is going out. And so I am still protective of that and want to continue to be protective of that and just make sure that there's consistency. And you can only make sure that there's consistency if you are aware of what's going on and have a bit of a hand in it and not oversee, but just kind of, check it out, keep an eye on it, things like that.
I like the boutique approach.
Yeah.
Dr. J. Ken Harris, Dr. Harris, all the things, is a walking soundbite. Literally. So, another one of your sayings is, there are many ways to be successful. Do what feels right and innate to you. Where did that conviction come from, and why is it so important to you?
It came from listening to everybody else for so long, and what came naturally and easy for me wasn't problematic. I ran into issues when I was listening to other people and going about it the way they felt I should go about it. So that is, I can say comfortably now to other people, if it don't feel right for you, don't do it that way. There are many ways to get from the airport in Atlanta to Mercedes-Benz Stadium.
Right.
4 come to mind right now.
Exactly.
So if you're from Atlanta like me, and you see that the interstate is backed up, you're like, well, shoot, let me go around over here by.
Get involved in this.
Let me go over to 29 and go up that way, then bust a left on Northside Drive, and I'll be there.
Right.
So that's innate to me.
Right.
That feels comfortable for me, right? But somebody who's not from Atlanta, stay on the interstate.
Yeah.
Stay on 85 North.
You're going to end up in somewhere else.
Stay right there and look for the exit that says Mercedes-Benz.
Yeah.
For somebody from the east side of Atlanta, they'd be like, let me go over here towards Lakewood Amphitheater and make my way that way. So things that come easy, things that come naturally are the things that we should do. So when I was a child and adolescent therapist, I would encourage the parents to whatever direction your child is headed in, foster that. A lot of times parents will say, stop asking so many questions. But are they going to be a lawyer? Are they going to be an investigator? Why are they asking? That's their natural inclination. Lean into it.
Right.
An argumentative child, let them be a lawyer.
Right.
A nosy child, let them be a private investigator. A child that is always telling you to do this or do that, let them be a teacher.
Right.
Like, lean into those things that are easiest for you. And if you can find out early what works for you and what is easiest for you and earn money while you're doing it, that is the American dream right there.
Ting tong. I used to tell, I used to be an academic advisor, as you all know, but I used to literally, the undecided people, I would say a simple question or ask a simple question. You know, if you could do anything all the time and not get paid for it, what would you do? And that was a really hard question for people, probably because people had been deterring them from doing those things.
Absolutely.
So, you know, it's the same kind of mindset. Yeah,
Absolutely.
absolutely. For our listener that is currently feeling stuck in their career, and they, you know, sense there's something more, something else I need to be doing, you know, what would you tell them about having the courage to evolve and, you know, when they've already spent decades following one path?
Sure. So if you have the sense that you're supposed to be doing something else, it's probably accurate. You should probably be doing something else. See what it is you're supposed to be doing, right? And then I am not telling you to quit your job and start something fresh and new. I am not telling you that. That is not my encouragement to you right now. But I do encourage you to explore it and check on the viability of it, right? And take small steps in that direction. So, what do you feel like doing? This is what you feel like doing? Great. So, one thing that we take for granted is that you have developed a skill set in this current role and certain skills, some knowledge and abilities in this role that could serve you in that role. Where does it cross up? Where does it overlap? What can I do? What skills have I acquired here? What knowledge have I acquired here that would serve me well there? Take inventory of that and recognize that it's probably very similar. Typically what we are called to do or what we feel a draw towards, we have the natural characteristics for, and those characteristics are going to emerge no matter what you do, no matter where you go, no matter what role you occupy. So if you feel a pulling in a certain direction, investigate it. See if it's supposed to be a hobby, right? Because everything that we feel a pulling towards doesn't necessarily need to dominate our life, and it can't always fund our lives. Sometimes it is just something for us to explore. So something that's supposed to be a hobby, something that's supposed to be fun, something that we do in our downtime, right? But if you feel that's where you're supposed to be full time, okay, cool. Let me make an exit plan. Let me make an exit strategy. One thing that I always like to do with any client, be it a consulting situation, be it a one-on-one therapeutic client, where do you want to end? Let's work backwards. When do you want to be here? You want to be here in 12 months? Cool. So if you're going to be there in 12 months, where will you be in month 11? Where will you be in month 10? Where will you be in month 9? And let's work our way back to where we currently are. So now that we have this timeline, right, we can say, in order for me to be here by month 2, I've got to start this right now, right today. And making a plan for where you want to be ultimately starts with one step. So take that initial step and move forward. And you will find, like a toddler learning how to walk, that every time you take a step, you will get more and more comfortable with every subsequent step to the time that you are walking solidly in your stride rights down the street, able to do what you need to do. Not to say that there won't be some missteps along the way, that you might change direction, that there won't be discouragement, that you might even run up on something else that you want to do along the way and want to explore that. All of those things are fine. But just because if you are tilling infertile soil and have not produced anything for a decade, why are you still tilling that soil? It's time for you to move to new soil. And so maybe it's time for you to move to new soil professionally.
Great advice. Thank you. You've walked us through your journey. And, you know, from finding your father deceased of a heart attack at 16 to that inadvertently or, you know, directly even leading you into a 20+ year career as a therapist to now working with attorney generals at, you know, the highest level of governments. You've led multiple professional lives. Again, the great pivot. You know, looking back at that 16-year-old,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and in that space and in that time, what would you want him to know about how this painful journey has, and where it has led you?
I don't want him to know to hang in there. That at some point is going to be easier. Um, I did not have a hard upbringing, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I did lose significant people in my life early on. And so there is this it, grief has this amazing way of showing up regardless of whether or not you want it to.
Right.
And I didn't know that at 16, right? And so I'm going along through life thinking things are fine. And I actually don't. I grieved my grandmother when she passed 3 weeks after my dad. I didn't grieve my dad till much later after that, right?
Right.
So it was misplaced grief and just like coming into your own as an adult and having loss and all the things. I think that what I would probably want the 16-year-old Ken to know about that journey is that every single thing that you're experiencing right now is going to fortify you and strengthen you and put you in a place to where you are going to flourish and thrive more than you thought possible.
Wow.
I think that's what I would want him to know. And that at different moments you're going to experience discouragement. That is life, right?
Right.
Like none of us is exempt from that. Everything's not going to be easy. As one of my friends like to say, life for me ain't never been no crystal stair.
Okay. All right, Langston Hughes.
Exactly. But I would definitely want him to know that every single experience, good, bad, and indifferent, is going to make you this okay human being who has solid self-awareness, a decent education, and you are going to flourish and thrive despite and in spite of.
Dr. Ken, thank you so much for your vulnerability, for your, willingness to share your journey, share your story, share your Kenisms, all the things. We really appreciate you and everything that you've, given to our audience today. And so what I'm hoping is that, you get some FMLA paperwork coming or what have you, or give people just the opportunity to know that is an option. Because again, whether you're building your business without a full-time job outside of your business, I flip out how to say that. But anyways, because your business is a full-time job, and I have to talk to myself and say that to me all the time. But in any case, people need a break. If it was nothing but use your PTO, whatever it is, all of those things have come out of this interview, in addition to, how to build your business and all that sort of thing and how to pivot, so much has gone on here. So, again, we appreciate you for sharing your wisdom, sharing your knowledge, talking about mental health, because that's so many pivots. But in any case, we appreciate you for, talking to our guest on Business in the Black.
I appreciate you, and thank you for even having this platform for people like myself to be a part of it. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Hey all, this is Dr. Ken. So glad to have been a guest on Business in the Black. It was a great opportunity, a great experience, and I'm glad to have been a part of it. If for any reason you want to get in touch with me, don't hesitate to do so. I can be reached through my website, is trateconsultants.com. That's www.trateconsultants, with an S on it, .com. I'm also on Trait Consultants on Instagram. And for those who still use it, on Facebook, not really on TikTok. Can't do it right now, but that's where I can be reached. And if you reach out to me and we see that I can't help you personally, I can try to find help for you, right? Because it's all about community. Each one reach one, and that's what we're here for. I look forward to hearing from you.
That's another episode of Business in the Black, where Black entrepreneurs turn vision into victory. Ready for more game-changing strategies and success stories? Connect with us everywhere. Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok. Business in the Black Pod. Spotify and Apple Podcast. Business in the Black. Keep building, keep growing, keep winning, and keep building your legacy.